and now it's like big. Well, anyway, welcome. What I'm going to talk about here is about, I'm going to get through as much of this deck as I can, and I may just do, the goal here is to get through 5 bad practices. My name's Ben Curry, if you don't know me. I know actually most of you stand in front of me. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Let me give you a little bit of precursor of why we've been talking about bad practices, and I realize it's a really, really negative way to look at something. The problem is we tried and tried to talk about best practices, but client after client after client, what we found was this common theme of mistakes or bad practices. We found a common theme of the bad practices that were being performed over and over again. So it was 80% of the clients we were at, which just happened everywhere. So there was some value in at least addressing the top 10 issues. We went through some of the top product support calls into Microsoft. We went through what we needed from clients, and we tried to identify the root cause and many of the things that are breaking inside of enterprise SharePoint implementations. So that's where this came from. Sometimes I call this presentation "Don't Smoke Crack." It's just generally good advice and everything. Use common sense. So a common sense guide to implementing SharePoint. A little bit about me. I'm a scuba instructor, ride motorcycles, wrote books, enough of that. So what's a best practice? How many people have bought the best practices book? How's my kids' college fund? Come on, guys. That's how I have my kids will have to go like community college. A best practice adapts to culture, politics, business, and security. We talk about best practice. We say, well, the best practice in a given situation. Let's say I want to connect BDC over a WAN to Oracle system. What's the best practices for latency? Well, that's a prescriptive best practice, and it's really not what we're talking about today. The best practices we're talking about are a compromise. Best practices are a compromise. Recently, I'm going to change this because it's culture, politics, business, security, and schedule. Is really, and you know, that's one of the things recently I've been hit with is we have a lot of schedule constraints. So it's a compromise, and this list could go on and on and on about what it is. I'm going to challenge you in your organization that when you say this is a best practice within our organization, it should be intellectually simple. What I found is if I can't clearly communicate to the stakeholders a best practice, put in place. So intellectually simple, practically application may be difficult. It should align with your organizational strategy. So if your company has, let's say you're manufacturing, and your end goal with SharePoint is to improve sales and marketing, it needs to align with your sales and marketing strategy. Find out the processes within. How do you get a product out of the line and into marketplace? And best practices, by the way, I'm generalizing best practices. They're often different between verticals. It's very different from government than healthcare to energy to finance. It really depends on where you're at and what your constraints are. It's not just, well, this is a best practice and you always build a web application using this identity.